Some watches try to be everything. Beautiful, precise, hyped, collectible. A few succeed at one or two, and then there is Bethune, a brand that feels like it forgot to play by the rules and instead wrote its own rules. In 2 decades, this atelier has become one of the most intriguing experiments in modern horology, where craftsmanship meets architectural imagination and technical ingenuity, and it feels almost philosophical. Today, we are delving into Bethune. This book, Bethune, The Art of Watchmaking, is a sumptuous Assaline volume which explores the history, the ideas, and the singular vision of one of the most fascinating watchmakers of the 21st century, and it is written by journalist and watch expert Arthur Touchot. Arthur Touchot brings an ideal voice to the subject. He is a respected watch journalist and historian, and formerly senior European editor for Hodinkee, and also a contributor for the New York Times and Financial Times, and now deeply embedded in the watch world both as a chronicler and a curator of stories. His approach for this book isn't glossy marketing or brand puffery. Instead, Touchot treats Bethune not as a product line, but as a creative organism, something evolving through material exploration, technical problem solving, and individual expression. Bethune doesn't have centuries of legacy like the Swiss giants that we are used to. It was founded in 2002, so in the modern era, by co-founder and master watchmaker Denis Flageollet, whose career blended traditional horology with an almost scientific quest for precision. Touchot's book frames this not as a handicap, but as a creative opportunity. Bethune could pull from history without being bounded by it, forge its own identity not as a heir to the past, but as interpretive architect of the future. The world the brand entered was already crowded, but Bethune entered it not by repeated conversations, but it entered by questioning assumptions. What is a balance wheel? What is a case? How can light interact with materials? And why shouldn't watchmaking delight the senses at every level? A central takeaway for the book is how technical inquiry drives Bethune's identity. Touchot spends real time with the mechanics, from early classical timepieces like the DB1 through the radical forms such as DB28 and its successors, because for Bethune, function and form are inseparable. Examples of this approach include rare engineered balance wheels made of titanium and platinum aimed at improved thermal stability, and the brand's inventive parachute shock absorption system, introduced early in its history, is a pioneering step in watchmaking. These aren't mere bullet points. They are responses to specific physical challenges laid out in the book as episodes of problem solving rather than sales rhetoric. The brand approaches mechanics as a kind of continual experiment, not as a checklist. Now, complications appear not because they are fashionable, but because they emerge naturally from the pursuit of performance and clarity. If mechanics are the brain of Bethune, design is its heartbeat. The book makes clear some aesthetic elements like the intensely blued titanium, the distinctive floating lugs, or the iconic delta bridge are not stylistic whims, but integrated expressions of engineering logic. And yet, the effect is unmistakably emotional. These watches look like they could exist only in the 21st century, but they also feel rooted in the deep history of watchmaking itself. Shows us that this paradox is intentional. The Bethune is as comfortable referencing Breguet and Harrison as it is redefining how light reflects on a case. For collectors, this is the aesthetic edge, not aggressive, not minimalist, but architectural and alive. The book does more than catalog models, though. It traces how de Bethune's aesthetic and technical lexicon evolved without losing coherence. Starting from more classical design in the DB1 series, the brand didn't suddenly abandon tradition, it translated it into new forms such as the emblematic DB28 and the Dream Watch series. These dream watches are fascinating testaments to the brand's willingness to push boundaries, not for spectacle, but for creative expansion of their horological offer. This emphasis on evolution rather than iteration is a through line in the book and a core reason de Bethune stands apart from both tradition and trend. Show spends significant narrative weight on the manufacture itself, the physical space where ideas take shape. He shows how de Bethune's workshop is neither a faceless factory nor a romanticized atelier. It's a laboratory of ideas where artisans and engineers collaborate on both craft and innovation. This focus on place is important. It reminds us that watches are not just objects, but documents of human labor, conversation, adaptation, and experimentation. Here's the single political undertone in this story. De Bethune represents intellectual sovereignty in an industry increasingly dominated by conglomerates and brand calculus. It isn't loudly anti-establishment, but its independence, the freedom to diverge from market norms, is a statement on itself. That's kind of power without podiums, consistent with how taste and influence operate in the world today. This narrative isn't explicit in the book, but Tuchau's choice invited, and that's part of what makes this volume meaningful. When you set the book down, it becomes clear that de Bethune isn't a brand that sells watches. It's a worldview codified in mechanics and design. Tuchau doesn't construct a myth, he constructs an argument. Watchmaking matters when it questions its own limits, when it treats precision as poetry, and when every component participates in an ongoing conversation between past and future. This is why the book isn't simply a retrospective, it's a manifesto, one that insists we look at watchmaking not as nostalgia or speculation, but as cultural expression embodied in machine logic. Now, here's what lingers from this book. Most watches want to be worn, de Bethune want to be studied. They aren't just seen at dinner parties. They are looked at, they are revisited, they are discussed, and that demands a different kind of attention. Not reflexive admiration, but curiosity. Whether you love them or find them weird, they make you think about what a watch can be. So, what is de Bethune, the art of watchmaking, really? It's part history, it's part technical exploration, part aesthetic philosophy, a celebration of making and meaning in equal measure. Now I want to hear from you. What was your first reflection to a de Bethune watch? Was it fascination, confusion, or awe? Do you see these watches as the future of independent watchmaking or as an exquisite detour? And which watch from any brand do you think best captures the conversation between tradition and invention? Well, drop me a comment, send me a message, tell me which watch book you want next, because this series isn't about summaries, it's dialogues. In the end, watches aren't just instruments, they're ideas you can wear. This is Watches and Politics. So subscribe, share with your collector friends, and I'll see you in the next chapter.